Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop. And it's a slightly sparse workshop today because the gas, my beloved EC300 gas is no longer in the garage. It has gone to the dealer because I'm buying another bike. So I thought I'd tell you the story of why I decided to get rid of the gas, as wonderful as it was. I mean, it weighed 106 kilos. It was totally focused on trail riding. And for what I was doing around here, it was absolutely brilliant. Fantastic bike. But unfortunately, and I only discovered this quite recently, it wasn't road legal. And you might think, well, how can it not be road legal? Because you've been riding it on the roads. But it wasn't road legal because it was set up for off-road use. It was registered. It had a registration number, and I had a carte grise, like the UK equivalent, or the UK V5 type document. But it was not road legal, and the only way you could make it road legal would be to put on all of the bits they gave you in a box when you bought the bike. So when I bought the bike, the guy just handed me this box and an exhaust and said, this is for homologation. And I thought, I didn't know what he was talking about, because I've never bought a bike that you needed to build in order to make it road legal. So it never occurred to me for a moment that I needed to do anything. Anyway, my wife is going to the Maldives in about 2 weeks' time. And I thought, well, what am I going to do while she's away? And so I thought, well, what I could do is I could go and do a bike ride somewhere. But I thought, well, I don't want to go anywhere round here, in France or in Italy or anywhere, because it's getting colder. The winter months are coming, looming large. So where do I want to go? So I thought what I could do is I could take the gas down to Spain and go south, like very south, Granada. And I would then use the bike to ride around the Sierra Nevada mountains. I mean, it would probably be cool because you'd be at altitude, but that's fine. I'd base myself in a hotel somewhere or other. So looked into it, found a fantastic hotel in Granada, really very, very nice hotel, good parking, secure parking, right in the centre of Granada. So that's great if you want to go out in the evening or whatever. And I then looked into, what I thought I'd do is I'd go onto the TET website and just see a little bit about Spain, because obviously I've used the TET data for doing the TET in Spain previously. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to see which sections of the TET I might want to do. Bearing in mind, I've also got the Wikiloc app on my rugged phone, which I use around here. And I'm sure there are plenty of non-TET trails that I could do in the mountains using the Wikiloc app. So went onto the TET website and started reading a bit. And I'd never really read much. I wanted it for the routes. That's what I wanted it for. Anyway, I was reading, and it said that a lot of the roads in Spain are basically unpaved public roads. Now, I sort of knew this because when I did some of the TET, 2 years ago now, on my Husqvarna 701, I had my rugged phone mounted on the bike, and I also had my Garmin Zumo GPS on the bike. And what I noticed when I was on some of the fire trails, these sort of, quite well gravelled trails through the mountains, that the Garmin was showing me I was on a road, as well as the thing for the TET. My rugged phone with the TET route was showing me I was on the right route for the TET, which struck me as a little bit odd, because quite obviously, this road, this gravel road that was quite a fair old size, was clearly an unpaved road. Now, because of this, on this thing I was reading on the TET website, it was saying that in order to use these trails, the bike has to be road legal. So I started thinking, well, if I need to make the gas road legal, you know, because like one thing led to another, all these sort of thought processes, and it was quite obvious to me that the gas was not road legal because it didn't even have a hooter. It had a horn button on this little like cluster on the left, but there was no, and I had the hooter in the box, but there was no hooter actually attached to the bike. So I thought, right, what I need to do is let me connect up the hooter, get a couple of mirrors, you know, some of these double take mirrors that I can fold in, and then the bike will be pretty much good to go. So I took the headlight surround off and started looking to see how do I connect up the horn, and I could not see a way of connecting up the horn, short of actually connecting the horn direct to the battery with a button and hopefully being able to use the button on the instrument, you know, the switch cluster. I wasn't going to be able to make the bike road legal. And that sort of led me to thinking, well, maybe, you know, maybe I should be thinking more about getting a road legal bike that is genuinely road legal rather than just fudge it. And so I started thinking, well, I don't want a big bike. You know, I've had a Honda CRF 250, which I did my very first foray into the mountains some years ago now. And it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I mean, it was, as a first timer, as a beginner off-roader, it was absolutely perfect for me. So anyway, I went to look at a CRF 300 and a friend of mine has just bought a CRF 300 for the very purpose of using off-road. And so I went to the dealer, the Honda dealer, which is just down the road from me here. And they had a CRF 300 in the showroom that was registered to be a demonstrator. It hadn't been used, but it was registered to be a demo. So anyway, I sat on it, and of course the thing sank almost to the floor because the suspension is extremely soft on the CRF, which makes it very beginner friendly. Because, you know, if you're on a KTM or something with really hard suspension, it's going to put you off going off-road probably for good. The only thing was, when I was sitting on this bike in the showroom, it seemed to me that for me, I mean, I'm just a tad over 6 foot tall and I weigh about 82 kilos. So, you know, I'm not a great hefty lump. But I was sitting on this bike and it just seemed to me to be a bit small, you know, for me physically. That like the handlebars seemed quite close to me and it just seemed a bit small. So I thought, well, maybe the CRF 300 is not the way to go. So obviously, as I'm sure all of you do, I started doing endless research, you know, on the internet, looking at YouTube videos about alternatives to the CRF and where maybe the CRF was okay. It wasn't expensive. I mean, over here, it was going to cost about €6,500 over here, which I think is probably cheaper than the UK. But I would need to spend some money sorting the suspension out. And I mean, every review I've seen almost says you need to spend some money sorting the suspension out if you want to, you know, if you're serious about using it off-road. Unless, of course, you only weigh about 50 kilos, in which case the suspension is probably absolutely perfect for you. The CRF was sort of, it was an option, but it was really a second tier option. And then I started thinking about the DRZ4S, because it's a bike that I've always liked, like when it was the DRZ400. You know, if we could have bought a DRZ400 in Europe like they can in America, I would have bought one. You know, years ago I would have bought one, but of course they haven't been available for years. So then I started thinking, well, actually, maybe this is better because it's absolutely designed for trails. You know, that's its purpose, is trail riding. And also, it's got much better suspension. So I watched a number of videos and I did endless research, like reading articles and all the rest of it. And I suppose there were two key elements that came out of these various reviews that were an issue, okay? The first one was the price, okay? And the idea is that this bike is expensive. Now, whenever somebody says to me, oh, X, whatever it is expensive, I always sort of draw breath slightly, because whether something is expensive or not depends on where you're coming from. And for example, I have a watch, a Wenger watch like this, okay? I've had it for a number of years. It cost me about £160. It's a great watch. It's super accurate. I mean, it's a quartz watch, so you need to put a battery in it. Absolutely accurate to the second for years. And it's waterproof, and I've used it, and it's a bit roughy-tufty, and I've used it for snorkeling holidays and various holidays where I've actually get in the sea, or motorcycle holidays, stuff like that. So it cost £160. Now, this watch is a Dornbluth, okay? Now, Dornbluth is a boutique manufacturer with a very small workshop in the east of Germany, and when I bought this about 4 years ago, they had an annual production rate of 150 watches a year. Now, this watch cost many thousands of pounds, many thousands, okay? So you think, well, okay, does that mean it's an expensive watch? Okay, well, compared to the Wenger, yes, it is an expensive watch, but it all depends where your price point is for buying watches. So if you said to someone, right, how much do you typically spend on a watch? And they said, well, I normally just buy a £10 Casio. It tells the time, does everything that I want it to. That's all I spend. They would think the Wenger is expensive. Equally, if you said to someone, how much do you typically spend on a watch? And they said, well, I've never bought a watch for less than 30 grand, then clearly the Dornbluth is relatively good value. You know, so it's no good somebody saying and getting up all uppity about the price of a DRZ4S. As I have seen on YouTube, you know, I mean, I watched a video with Nathan the Postman, who has recently added the DRZ4S to his fleet. Now, he has a fleet of relatively inexpensive bikes. You know, he's got a CRF 300, he's got a Vosges 300, he's got a Royal Enfield Himalayan. I'm not sure if he's got both of them, the 411 and the 450, I'm not sure, but they are all budget bikes, okay? And he has added a DRZ4S to his fleet, and he's been out once on it, and he came back from the ride after introducing the bike at the beginning of the video. He went out for a short ride, 30 odd miles, came back, and he basically slated the bike for the price, okay? For its purpose, for its intended purpose of going on trails and going off-road, he said it was brilliant. But he absolutely could not get past the £8,000 price tag. And I thought, I mean, to be honest, when I watched the video, I thought, well, you're an idiot, because you've basically filled your garage with budget bikes, and you've now got a bike that isn't a budget bike, and you're saying it's too expensive. Well, don't bloody buy it. You know, if you consider this bike to be too expensive, and, you know, it's unnecessarily expensive for what it is, why did you buy it? You know, you knew how much it was before you bought it. So, you know, it wasn't like you bought it and then suddenly the bill came in and you were surprised. So that sort of thing just pissed me off. You know, people will say to me, well, was your car expensive? Well, it was if you only spend 10 or 15,000 quid on a car, typically. But if your typical car purchase is £250,000, then my car is quite good value, you know? I mean, you know, it all depends where you're coming from. So to criticise the bike for the price point, I think is ridiculous, okay? The other point that has been made is it doesn't have a 6th gear, okay? Now, there are other bikes out there that do not have a 6th gear. The original Royal Enfield Himalayan only had 5 gears. And it may be that Suzuki will put a 6th gear in at some point in the future when they do a revamp of the model. I don't know. But you've got to come back to what is the purpose of the bike? What is its intended purpose? Now, if you're riding and you want to do distance at motorway speed, then why are you buying the DRZ4S? Why are you buying that bike? Because quite obviously it is not a bike intended for that purpose. It's not to say it can't do it, but if that's one of your goals is to have a low revving at motorway speed bike, don't buy it, because that's not what it was designed for. It was designed for off-road, okay? And I'm sure it will be very good at that. So the other thing that, and this isn't one of the things that people have said is a negative, but one of the positives for me, okay, and this is noted in Suzuki's marketing blurb, is it's made in Japan. It's a motorcycle that's manufactured and assembled in Japan. And I like that, okay? I have got nothing particularly against the Chinese motorcycles. I mean, it's impossible to buy almost anything without some Chinese element to it. But if you can buy something that's been made by people you think know how to put a motorcycle together, and for sure Suzuki do. I mean, I've had several Suzukis. My very first bike was a Suzuki back in the day. They did have bikes then. Then I have no problem with Suzuki making a bike. You know, it's made in Japan. I trust their manufacturing. I'm sure it will be ultimately incredibly reliable. So the DRZ4S arrives, what day is it today? Today it's Sunday. I am hoping to get it on Tuesday, but that will very much depend on whether we can get it registered in time. If it doesn't arrive on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I am in Italy because I'm going to EICMA with a friend of mine, which will be great. I'm really looking forward to that. And then I'll pick the bike up the following week. So that is the end of my little video about why I'm buying a DRZ4S, because I want a bike that can take me on trails and is road legal. And that's really the end of it. Will I have another 2-stroke Enduro? To be honest, I think I probably will. I mean, the riding the gas, it is so focused on what it's designed for. It's absolutely brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But I want something more than that. And the other thing with the DRZ, of course, is it's relatively light. I mean, it's lighter than my 701, my Husqvarna 701, which I did a lot of pretty gnarly TET on. So I'm sure that the Suzuki will be great. So that's it. Hope you've enjoyed listening to me rabbit a little bit and rant slightly. Please, if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. That would be very kind of you. And subscribe if you haven't already. And I shall see you next time. So bye for now.